What are the realistic expectations for the Saints' ceiling and floor this season? All right, ladies and gentlemen, the backdrop, New Orleans Football. Nick Underhill and Mike Triplett, they're answering fan questions. This one, interesting. Good question here. So we got the ceiling and the floor. What's the highest of highs and the lowest of lows that are realistic for this upcoming season? We'll let Nick and Mike kick us off. I'll react along the way. Enjoy yourself, ladies and gentlemen. You are watching the face of the franchise.
Martin's is home to a wide selection of hand-picked barrel select bourbon, whiskeys, and more. Martin's so much more than just wine. Question is, what are the realistic expectations for the Saints ceiling and the floor this season?
I mean, geez, a lot to be determined there, right?
That part is true. We're still a ways away. We're still a ways away from this exercise because we have to know. I mean, we have to know who the DC is, right? We have to know, is it Brandon Staley? Is it somebody else? What's that system? What's it look like? How's it fit the roster? We got to know who we're going to draft. I mean, we are a long way away from really identifying how good or bad this roster is. I mean, as of right now, we don't even know who the quarterback is. Right now, it's Derek Carr, but how confident are you in Derek Carr starting the 2025 season as the quarterback of the New Orleans Saints? The forecast for a Derek Carr-led Saints team is a different forecast than a Spencer Rattler-led Saints team. So, love the question, but I do agree. It's a little bit early to really forecast what this team will be or what we can expect them to do.
It depends on how willing they are to let the floor drop. But as we said, on the Friday show, even if they decide to cut Derek Carr, that's the only move they make. I mean,
yeah, if they cut Carr, if you told me they cut Carr and we're moving forward with Spencer Rattler, I think the floor would probably be around 5 wins again, something like that. I just don't think the team is devoid of talent to the point to where we could truly be one of the worst teams in the NFL. And guys, listen, winning 5 games sucks, no doubt about it. But the way the Saints did it, they are not one of the worst teams in the NFL. There is a big difference between the Saints and the Browns, or the Saints and the Titans, or the Saints came within a play of beating Washington, came within a play of beating the Eagles. They are right there, even though they're not one of the better teams. I'm not, you don't have to be one or the other. You don't have to be an 11, 12-win team, or you're one of the worst teams in the NFL. The Saints were a below-average team last year. They had some hard luck, like we said, in the games with Washington and Philly, and even the Rams game, even the first Falcons game. But I just don't think the team is bad enough roster-wise. I mean, they have pieces, especially when you consider pieces that are taking a step forward after their first year, like Talise Fuago, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Spencer Rattler. I mean, you would think we saw the worst of Spencer Rattler last year. You would think that he's going to develop a little bit. You would think that Kellen Moore coming in is a positive. So 5 wins is probably the floor, and that might be a little low, to be honest.
They have to keep everyone else. So they're not gutting the entire roster. It would be Spencer Rattler leading a roster led by Alvin Kamara and Chris Olave and Eric McCoy and Demario Davis and Pete Werner and Tyrann Mathieu.
Yeah.
So that team could still be competitive and maybe win, depending on how good Spencer Rattler is or whoever else they brought.
I guess I'll do the ceiling since I did the floor. I think the ceiling would be Rattler takes a step forward and is on par with the results you would expect from Derek Carr. Now, that sentence I'm going to repeat because I think people may get confused. I'm not saying he takes a step forward and is immediately as good as Derek Carr. I'm saying that the results would be similar to what you'd expect from Derek Carr. So if Rattler does take that step and the injuries aren't what they were last year, and we get Eric McCoy on the field, if we get Chris Olave on the field, we get some of those players on the field, who knows who we draft. I could see a world where the Saints take a step forward and they are a 9-ish win team. 10 plus that's kind of dreaming. 10's a round number, so I guess you could say 10 is the ceiling, but 9-ish wins sounds about right. Obviously, luck and stuff plays a large part in that, but I could see that being the ceiling. I could see that being the big step forward. And if you win 9 games, you're obviously competing for the division. I don't expect us to, but that is the question, ceiling and floor. So I would say the ceiling is probably somewhere around 9 wins.
Brought in, if they bring in a veteran that's cheap like Garoppolo or something like that, or hey, maybe he wants Kenny Pickett, who knows? But like maybe that team could win 6 games and then shoot the moon and be way more competitive than we ever expected in this lousy division and win 8 or 9. Like I don't think this is going to look like the Tennessee Titans this year. I don't think this is going to be a 2-15 team this year, kind of no matter.
I kind of like the idea of Garoppolo, honestly. Like I like that idea as a veteran quarterback. If you told me you're bringing in Garoppolo on the super cheap, and Spencer Rattler and Garoppolo are kind of the pushing each other for the starting job, or however you want to do it, but I like that idea, and I think you can win. If Rattler takes a step forward, obviously you can win with him, but even if he doesn't, you have to go to Garoppolo. I think Garoppolo is a really serviceable bridge quarterback. I think he's a winner. He certainly has won in the past. So I don't hate that idea if you're looking for vets out there.
What path they take. And obviously, if they keep everybody, if they keep Carr and they keep everybody and they actually spend on 1 or 2 free agents and decide, hey, we're not going to, if they treat it like they treated each of the last 2 off seasons, then they might be healthy enough to win 10. But
yeah, I think Carr obviously boosts the ceiling a little bit because he is a legitimate starter in the NFL with a higher ceiling. So if Carr is your starter and you're kind of pseudo going for it, then yeah, I think you could probably get into that 10-win world.
Ceiling probably somewhere around 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think every team that's like picking between 1, maybe not 1, but let's move it down to like 4, starting with the Patriots, to Dallas, Miami, Indy, Atlanta, Arizona. I think all those teams feel like they can probably win 10 games next year.
I think you're one off. I think, yes, on the Dallas, Arizona, that group probably feels like that. I don't think that that would be a crazy jump for New England. Drake May would have to really turn a corner. I mean, I think he was all right last year, but to go from, Vrabel is a good coach, but that would be an insane turnaround. The Giants, I don't think in any universe the Giants are a 10-win team. The Titans are still a ways away. The Browns are still a ways away. So I think your top 4-ish picks probably are still, they're just begging to be 500. But above that, yeah, you probably do get into your, you probably are in, like Miami certainly thinks they can win 10 games.
Sure, everybody in that bubble, there's probably a path to do it, and some of them always do. But the floor for all of them is like 3. Like it is. If you got rid of Derek Carr, like your floor is 3. Like you could very easily be like a 2-3 win team.
I don't know. That's there's kind of a misconception when it comes to the record. Like I hear people say that all the time. I hear people be like, "Oh, 2 wins, 3 wins." Like you got to think about how difficult that is to lose 15 games. How difficult it is to lose that many games. Like think about how some of the really bad teams over the last couple of years, and they end up winning 3 games, 4 games, and it just happens. Like it's just over the course of a year, injuries happen, the ball bounces certain ways, random things happen in the game, unexplainable stuff takes place. It is just as hard to go over as it is to go undefeated. So when you start getting into that 2-win territory, that 3-win territory, like you aren't just a bad team. You are like historically disgustingly bad. You are horribly bad. And I don't know if the Saints could possibly get there without a ton of injuries.
But if you keep everyone together, yeah, I think if you keep everyone together, you're totally healthy. You spend it, like you said, a few things. I agree. I think 10 is there. Like it is. It's there for everybody. It's the NFL.
I don't think they should pursue it.
No, I don't
aggressively.
either. I don't either.
But it's not impossible.
You're playing a last place schedule and you could win 10 games. Like it's just that's the NFL.
See, that's another part of it too. Like that's why the NFL does the roster or the schedules like they do. They don't want bad teams to just get destroyed. They don't want 2-win teams. They don't want 1-win teams. They don't want winless teams. They want parity. So to win 2 games, to win 3 games, it goes against like the fabric of how the NFL even works. So I think four wins, like we're talking disaster situation below the floor, breaking through the floor. I still think 4 would be the hard
NFL.
floor.
It is the NFL. Everybody feels like they can win 10, and everybody's a couple hits away from winning 5. Like, it's just kind of the way it is in that middle tier. And then if you're on the top tier, obviously, you aren't getting the 5 if you're Buffalo. But if you're Tampa's an injury or 2 away from being a 5-win team. Denver, they're in the playoffs.
Sure.
Pittsburgh is right there. The Chargers could easily be.
I mean, if you look at this, like, just look at how bad. Like, think about how bad New England, Cleveland, Tennessee, the Giants, they're 3-win teams. You know, like, they don't even break to that 2-win world. Now, as far as, like, it is kind of crazy because then there's other teams where you forget that they were a 5-win team. You know, like the Bears. Like, you forget the Bears are a 5-win team. You forget the 49ers are a 6-win team. The 49ers go from Super Bowl aspirations and Super Bowl, appearances to 6 wins. So when you do get unlucky and you do have injuries or in the Saints or in the 49ers case, you have injuries and the ball doesn't bounce your way. When you get both of those happening together, then that's how you end up being 6-11. So let's go to the previous season. So the previous season, Carolina was, historically bad, 2 wins. But the rest of the league, again, like, think about how bad Washington was. Think about what Sam Howell. Think about how bad New England was, 4 wins. And then where's San Francisco? San Francisco goes 12-5. And then because of some injuries, because of some random bounces their way, because of some luck, all of a sudden they're 6-11. So it does come at you fast. So for sure, teams right there on the cusp, the Steelers, teams like, even the Bengals. The Bengals constantly go through this where they have a year where they have bad bounces or whatever, and then it just falls apart. So, like Minnesota could take a step back. Green Bay, teams like that. Let's see. Tampa, obviously. Atlanta. Atlanta wasn't really good last year, but the Rams, Seattle, like, they're all right there. Denver, certainly. The Chargers seem to have a pretty good infrastructure, but, they kind of flip-flopped the right way, but you can go backwards just as quick. All of these teams, Texans, Colts, Steelers for sure, the Dolphins for sure. But, yeah, there's not a lot. Like when you're talking about those records, you're talking about how you place and all that, that's why we don't put a ton of stock into the win-loss. We don't put a ton of stock into the results like that because there's so much more context to it. Like 2 6-win teams can be very different 6-win teams. The 49ers at 6-11, the Saints are 5-12, very different situations.
They were a 5-win team that turned into an 11-win team, I believe.
The Chargers.
So yeah, I think that variance is just kind of there for everybody. But I don't think
hard. Three requires injuries, though.
Yeah.
There's only a couple teams that five is 3 requires. I guess Cleveland fell to 3 this year. That really
they
collapsed.
just won 5 games chasing 10. Like, if you cut Carr,
Cleveland had Dorian Thompson-Robinson starting NFL games.
You could easily.
But that's what I'm saying. If they won 5 last year,
they won 0 without Carr.
That's true. That's true.
If you cut Carr, you can't do nothing else. Like, you could very easily be a 3-win team, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Like, they'd be a 5-win team that would have a 5-win team with bad luck becomes a 3-win team.
I'm not predicting 3.
That's how you have to do it. You have to be, like, in order to get to 3, you have to be a 5-win, 6-win team at the base level, and then have horrible luck on top of it.
Saying their floor is like very.
There were no 3. Has there only been 2 3-win teams in the last 3 years? 3 is tough. 3 is tough.
So 3 is really hard.
How about those 0-win teams, man?
0, 1, 2, 3, very, very difficult.
Yeah, that's really tough. But Yeah, there's been basically. Oh no, there were 3 years
There were
ago.
there were 3-1 teams this year.
3?
Yeah,
Oh, okay. I thought
Tennessee,
there were only 2.
Cleveland, and the Giants.
Oh, Cleveland. I forgot about Cleveland.
Yeah,
Oof.
I mean it's tough to
It
get
can
there, but like
happen.
they didn't win a game without the starting quarterback, and you would be gutting your roster kind of at that point because you got to get under the cap and you can't add anybody. It could very. I think that there's a very realistic floor of 3 wins for this team if they're trying not to win next year. Like I think you can win 3 games on purpose here kind of easily.
It's the path I want them to take, the path that invites a 3-win floor, and then watch them try to exceed expectations without investing any of their future into this year's team.
I think the Saints are a very volatile team because volatile teams are the ones that underachieved the previous year, but maybe not due to their own like volition. Like the fact that the Saints were a 5-win team, how much of that was because of the Saints, and then how much of that is a combination of luck and injuries? And you do have to factor that kind of stuff in when you're forecasting. I mean, just like for the 49ers. Like, would it surprise anybody for the 49ers next year if they bounce back and they're an 11-win, 12-win team? No, right? So there is like some severe volatility with some teams, and the Saints can absolutely be that. It depends on the Carr Rattler thing for sure, but it also depends on like I was having a conversation today about signing Mekhi Becton. We're really going down a rabbit hole here, but let's say the Saints sign Mekhi Becton, okay? And all of a sudden, the left side of your line, you go Eric McCoy, Becton, and Fuaga. Just that alone, it's like, well, damn, that's pretty strong. That's a pretty strong left side of your offensive line. You have a left side of your offensive line like that with Alvin Kamara, very difficult just with that to have 3 wins. Because that's such a, like 2-win, 3-win teams don't have that. 2-win, 3-win teams don't have Alvin Kamara. They don't have a stable side of the line. They don't have, those are the teams that have nothing. Those are the teams that's like, yeah, Chuba Hubbard is our starting running back. Like they just don't have anything going on. Like Zamir White is your starting running back. That's how you get to 3 wins. That's how you get to, where the talent just isn't there. But at certain spots, the Saints are a piece-ish away from being solid. I mean, just like Chris Olave, if Olave's healthy, Rashid's healthy, and you draft McMillan, you're entering the season with your top 3 receivers are Olave, McMillan, and Rashid Shaheed. Pretty solid. Like that's pretty solid wide receiver room for a 2-3-win team. So,
well, I don't know. I guess we'll end it on that very depressing note.
No, but that's what I'm saying. I want them to take the 3-win path and then surprise everyone by like being in contention all year long with Spencer Rattler at quarterback.
I mean, well, that would be great. But even the 3, like I could sit through a 3-win on purpose.
Yeah.
Like 3 wins
that doesn't happen though. That's not a thing.
on purpose that's a plan. 3 wins on accident,
Yeah.
that's a disaster.
You can't have a 3-win on purpose. Like I said, you can't have a 3-win on purpose team with the way that the roster is and the new coaches. Like getting a whole new coaching staff to accept going 3 wins in their first season on purpose is something I don't think is a real thing.
Exactly.
So whatever they're doing, whatever they aim for, I hope they get to it, and I hope they aren't aiming too hard for 10.
It's crazy, like the volatility, another part of that, would it really surprise you if Spencer Rattler was on the level of a Brock Purdy, where all of a sudden Brock Purdy is being written off all year long, but then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, he just won 12 games. Yeah, he just won 11 games. Like, I don't think Rattler and Purdy are that far off talent-wise. Question is, can the Saints put together enough of a system or an infrastructure to protect him, like the 49ers protected Purdy? I mean, some teams you have to win with the superstar, like Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson or whatever. But other teams, it's not really the case. Like, is Rattler that far off from Jimmy Garoppolo when he was with the 49ers or Brock Purdy currently? Like, I don't know. Now, you could argue, well, the actual roster is far off from those 49er teams. Okay, I can hear that. But I think a lot of people are going to look at Rattler and just say, Rattler is starting their 3-win team, 4-win team. But there's so much more that goes into it. And a tweak here, a tweak there, and those like question marks, like I said with the offensive line, a Mekhi Becton here, all of a sudden it's like, wow, that's okay. I'm just going to completely make something up, but let's say you go Mekhi Becton and you draft Will Campbell. and those are your two guards. And you're sitting there with Fuaga, Becton, McCoy, Campbell, and Penning. It's like, well, that's okay, hold on a second. Something's going on here. Or if you get Mason Graham in the draft, and Mason Graham's your Jalen Carter. Like, okay. One player here, one player there can really change things. All right. Let me know in the comment below what you think. What is the Saints' ceiling? What is the Saints' floor? Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.